Welcome to the Cast Blast Grill Chill podcast with Jeremy and Trevor, the podcast that's all about hunting, fishing, grilling, and chilling out and having a good time in the outdoors.
All right, Trevor, whenever you're ready.
All right, man, I got a question for you to start this thing out.
All right, what you got?
All right, so what's the most important thing to you about hunting?
I'd probably say the memories I make outside.
Yeah? What's the most important thing to you, why you actually go out and harvest an animal?
So I know where my food comes from to provide for my family.
Exactly, so you know where your food comes from for the meat, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with a little story about how my night went last night. Let's back this up a little bit more. My freezer's been running a little scarce lately. We're almost at the opening of bow season, so that being said, that should, explain a lot to people that, hunt for their own meat and stuff like that. By the end of the season, you're either out of deer or running real low, unless you just tagged out last year, So my freezer's running real low, having to supplement with some AGB meat. And I don't like doing that. I've come to just, I have all of these recipes that I really like. My girlfriend really likes that I prepare all the time with, venison and, anything else, the wild hog, stuff like that. As far as pork and a red meat goes, that's what we like to eat. So I bought an HEB, some bacon wrapped pork tenderloin yesterday. Came home, cooked it up, followed the instructions, all that stuff. It was like, I don't know, it was like $3.75 for like 10 minutes aside or something like that. Cooked it fine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it cooked it just fine. We ate dinner. About 30 minutes after dinner, she starts complaining about her stomach hurting. And like kind of just that nauseous feeling, bad stuff like that. I'm like, okay, you ready to go lay down? Let's go lay down. And, we lay down, I fall asleep, and then I guess about an hour into my sleep, I started getting that half asleep feeling because it's like in the back of your mind, you subconsciously know you're about to puke.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, and then like you're kind of resisting it because you're like real asleep, but like you're kind of conscious about it in your subconscious.
Yeah, your body's doing everything it can to hold on to it while your body is doing everything to wake you up and say, hey, you are about to make a huge mess. And the back of your brain's like, wake up, dummy.
Yeah, so I ended up waking up, going to the bathroom, didn't actually, vomit or anything, luckily. But man, just that sick feeling. And I was almost to that point. She was almost to that point. So we slept like crap last night just because of that. And it really got me thinking about how many people's hands have probably touched that. How many things have not been, properly taken care of, passing that through and getting it into these, especially getting it all the way from a whole pork tenderloin down to these medallions and then bacon wrapped and then put seasoning on it and then package it into a package, and then by the time I take it out and I put it in the oven and cook it, how many hands actually touch that thing? I mean,
yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
how many places for mistakes are there? Like,
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
There could have very easily, stop and think about it. Just in a prime example, whenever me and you break down and process an animal, me and you are both, I wouldn't go as far to say anal about it, but we're damn anal about it.
We're very conscious about what we're doing while we're doing it. And, anybody that butchers their own meat and, processes their own deer or whatever the animal is, there's steps you take to ensure that you're not making a mistake on the way to make yourself or your family sick. So that's important to you because you're bringing it home, you're butchering it and taking these risks. So you're going to be extra cautious. So you're not, extra cautious. So you're not getting your family sick.
Yeah, exactly. We're extremely thorough about going through and sanitizing stuff and making sure that like as we're breaking down the cuts, we're not going back and using the cutting board we were using 20 minutes ago that, if we do, we take it, we wash it, we sanitize it, and then we go back and reuse it.
Not to say that HEB isn't sterile and a great place to get meat sometimes and
Well, but I mean,
stuff like that. But there's just room for error when you're doing it that often, that all day long. And I don't know how old that meat actually was.
did a
And I
cooler
just
go
did,
down? Did a
yeah,
tenderloin
did
sit
some,
out
you just
too
don't
long?
know. And so
Did I mean, there's a
yeah,
million different things. Was somebody, doing something with chicken, taking and you know
yeah,
how they do the leg quarters or fryer
yeah.
quarters and season them up, and then put them in the
Mhm.
little styrofoam with the cellophane over it.
Yeah, exactly.
I
And
mean,
man, if you think about it, if I was to shoot a deer this Saturday, right? and and we're sitting there and I pack out the quarters and then, let's say you come over and we process that. That's two pairs of hands on an entire animal. I know exactly what happened during that. I know if there's a cut that fell on the ground that's like, oh crap, let's pick the dirt off it. And, you pay extra close attention to that.
yeah, let's
And,
go ahead and wash that one and grill it now.
let's go ahead and hit it with the high heat and don't let bacteria set in and, multiplying, you just know the precautions to take. So I just wanted to start with that, man, and just kind of that's why it's so important to me to go out and harvest my own animals. It's a great feeling to provide, but also just knowing where it comes from. I mean, that's been reiterated through for centuries from everybody. You know, um, if there's something that you can't hunt, of course you got to go buy it if you really want that. But I'm fine with just what I can harvest for wild game most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally everybody wants a beefsteak or somebody wants chicken fajitas or something like that. But I mean,
Yeah, or a rack of baby back ribs or something like that. You just
yeah,
there's certain things that you just can't go out and hunt a cow. So sometimes you want that beef.
I don't know, man. I've seen some cows out there on the Corps engineers land grazing. I just don't have a permit for a cow yet.
Yeah, I wonder what the bag limit would be on that.
Oh man, I wouldn't want to pack out more than a half of one.
Right. uh,
Oh
yeah, that's what
well,
I just wanted to start it out with. But yeah, man, opening of bow season for deer this Saturday. Today is what, Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So we're just a few days out, man.
Yeah, we're a couple days out. I'm excited. I went to the grocery store today and got my junk to go in my backpack to fuel me through this hunt. Um, been watching the weather, watching the winds. I
Hmm.
know we talked either Monday or Tuesday about what we were going to do as far as the wind and where we were going to hunt, and this north wind that's supposed to push in Friday afternoon, I guess, is when it looks like that front's supposed to be coming through.
As of right now, that's what they're saying, but that time frame when it actually could push through is bound to change.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't matter. Most likely Saturday we're going to be pushing with kind of a
Is
wind kind of out of the northwest, which totally
Yeah,
is going to change our original plan that we had. So we were both, on the Google Earth looking around trying to find, what's the next best place. And I think, those couple places we talked about, you know, getting in the tree lines on the southern and western edges, facing those open edges, will give us better visibility and keep the wind in our favor a lot better than the original spots we were planning to hunt.
yeah, I think so. And my plan was to do a lot of still hunting because I haven't hunted this property a whole lot. So and especially deep, thick into the woods back in there. So I was just gonna, I was planning on going in down a nice cut trail and then getting to a creek and following that creek basically west or northwest up and then circling back and hunting everything south of that. But with the wind coming from the northwest, that blows all of my scent back to everything that I was wanting, all the woods that I was wanting to, still hunt through. So that totally changed my access point for the public lands. So I did find another tributary to that creek, and I'm going to be able to hopefully follow that as a good guide in the dark up to a certain point where it kind of branches off into an even smaller tributary that leads up to a kind of a finger that sticks out of trees there, and kind of walk that hopefully dry creek bed up through, because I can move a lot quieter in a dry creek bed than I can, mesquite bushes and dry grass and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's kind of my thinking as well. Is I'm actually not gonna push in near as far as I typically would or like to. I'm actually only gonna push in maybe tops an 8 to a quarter mile, and then I'm gonna hunt that kind of field edge on the edge of the access road, the field, the county road, kind of that little open section there until it starts getting warm. And then once I figure out what the wind's going to do, is I'm going to do a lot of still hunting as well, but not still hunt where I was originally planning on hunting through that big oak bottom that kind of follows that dry creek bed, kind of the same deal you were going to do, just on the other side of the property.
Yeah.
I'm just going to basically kind of work my way due north, and then every time I find a thicket or a bottom or promising habitat, is I'm going to go through those areas and still hunt them.
Yeah.
Just kind of pick them apart. And since I'll be hunting with the cheater crossbow this particular hunt, I feel like that could really pay some dividends. I'm going to run a super small backpack, just enough to carry a couple bottles of water, a couple bonk bars, and you know, I'm gonna have a Nalgene bottle with a double dose of pre-workout in it to give me the energy to go through the rest of the day, to crave any hunger pains that creep up on me throughout the day, because that's pretty much the way I'm gonna hunt until I find the spot that I feel like looks the best until 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then I'm gonna sit down and camp that spot until dark.
Yeah, I've kind of come up with um, a different way of bringing stuff in, and packing in water and stuff. This past spring when I was doing a lot of hog hunting and stuff, archery hog hunts, is I bought a fanny pack, and I can get, my rangefinder goes on the belt of the fanny pack. I got some binos that fit just fine into there. I got a little first aid kit, a backup knife, and a main knife, and some ass wipe, and little stuff that you may need right on you. But I do pack in, an Nalgene full of water every time I go in, and I'm going to be packing some Cliff Bars in as well. 2 of the big Cliff Bars just for some snacky energy. But I am going to basically make a cache of that stuff. Anything that's not going to go in my fanny pack, including the water, is going to be cached. So I'm just going to find kind of a central location and say, okay, I know I can come back here easily, and to get water, or to come back, take a little break, eat some food without pulling it out of, let's say I'm still hunting through some stuff, pulling out, like, oh man, I really need to eat now, and then pulling out something, eating it. Number one, that's gonna do a lot to your
Zippers and
zippers, and the sound, and then also scent. Cliff bars aren't a big thing, but just food in general, like
say
eating in the woods is it's just kind of, it's odd. I don't know. You can go and argue that they might be able to do it, but any little thing might do it as well. But yeah, I also want to talk about out there. We're using the water, because there's so much water out there, less of an attractant and more of just travel corridor, like to base movement off of how the deer are going to move, because there's so much water everywhere all the time out there. There's tons and tons and tons of retention ponds and
yeah,
old cattle tanks and stuff for, the pump jacks and stuff like that. And, creeks,
creeks.
and there's a lake right next to it, and a big pond right next to it.
Yeah, there's no shortage of water out there.
Yeah.
The best thing, and on top of that, there's heavy game trails against, every creek out there,
Hmm.
and you can find a crossing quite easily. And it's not a bad idea, to go there and, just travel the creeks till you find a crossing, and then you could actually go set up, 20, 25 yards, you know,
Yeah.
downwind of it.
Yeah, that's kind of was my thought of the still hunt, especially going in without a ton of scouting into this public land piece, and actually getting to go over there, follow some travel corridors, and if you sneak up on something, great, then great. If you don't, you're bound to come across a bunch of decent areas that you stand a decent chance of seeing something, because it's those waterways are gonna
They're pinch points.
they're pinch points. They're creating a boundary, an impassable boundary for the most part, on a big creek with steep banks and flowing water. And a lot of times they're going to wait for an easier crossing, and they can just walk along that creek. Nothing's pulling them to that other side necessarily. That's so great. There's nothing over on that side that's necessarily better than here.
Exactly.
From what I was seeing on the maps, oak trees are spread across pretty evenly. There's water everywhere, and it's good bedding areas, stuff like that. So
yeah, it's definitely prime deer habitat. I mean, and if the acorns are like any of the oak trees around here, there's gonna be acorns all over the ground. So there's food everywhere.
You got a good acorn drop.
Here around here, I have. I mean, they're
live
not
oak or white oak. What do you got?
Live
oak over there.
Yeah,
that's good. That's what's going to be out there. So
yeah,
I'm definitely watching that.
Yeah, live oaks and white oaks both seem to be dropping good amounts of acorns. The live oaks aren't dropping big acorns; they're actually dropping about, I'd say, a typical live oak acorn is, half of an inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch for a big one. Most of these, the big ones are a half inch, and the average size is, about maybe like 5/8 of an inch. A little, the small ones maybe 1/4 of an inch. I mean, they're small and they're super green, but they're definitely hitting the ground.
The white oaks at my office they're dropping some huge acorns in huge quantities. I think almost every single one of those trees is synced up to drop the same year. It's pretty impressive, actually, because from what I was talking to my coworker about, is them having to deal with acorns in such huge numbers one year and then not the next. And I was like, man, a lot of those trees must just be synced up on years that they're going to drop.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I always, I used to never realize that as a younger person growing up, that, live oaks only drop every other year.
Yeah, and it's you don't notice it as much just because they're not all drop this year, don't drop this year. They're all mixed together. This one will drop this year, the next one will drop the next year. So there's always acorns on the ground.
Yeah.
But when somebody talks about a good acorn crop this year, it could either be just more acorns from the same amount of trees, or this year could have a greater amount of trees dropping acorns. So that's something that's kind of cool to keep in mind if you're hunting a lot of acorns and oak bottoms and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Because I mean, someplace like your parents' house, and like out there, there's not a whole lot of super large live oaks, but there's a whole lot of those, 8 to 10 inch live oaks, and they're spaced super close together to the point where sometimes 3 of them have grown together into one tree.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Yeah, I'm trying to stay optimistic. I've definitely been obsessing, and for weeks and weeks and weeks now. Just picked up a lone wolf stand, an old lone wolf alpha stand, off of Craigslist from some lady for $100 yesterday.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, did you open the box? And because you told me it appeared to be brand new and never used. Was it?
I did. It was brand new. Everything was still in the packaging. All the plastic was on everything. It did come with a harness, and it was just a cheapy, shoulder and crotch harness.
Try and figure out how to put it on in the dark. So you're still gonna wind up going with a vest harness.
That one actually didn't look that terrible. If I don't end up getting a harness, a nicer harness, before deer season, that one looked in great shape and not that bad. So I wouldn't be totally opposed to using it, but I would still like the vest style where you just put it on just like a vest, zip it up, and you're ready to rock and roll.
Then you buckle your legs and you're good to go.
Buckle your legs and then throw it around and clip yourself on the tree and start going.
So what are you going to do? It didn't come with the climbing sticks, correct?
It did not come with the climbing sticks, but I have been looking into the Halo. I forget which model number it is, but it's one of the Halo brand.
Didn't you tell me like what you said you were when you said if it didn't come with climbing sticks, you were talking about maybe getting like the helium or
Oh no, helium. I'm sorry, I said Halo. Yeah, the helium climbing sticks. They come in 30-inch sections, and they sell them in packs of 30-inch sections. I think they're like 2.6 pounds, I believe, a piece. So by the time you factor all that in together, you're only looking at 7.5 pounds added to an 11-pound stand. I think it's a touch under 12 actually, but
so you're less than 20 pounds strapped to your back.
I'm less than 20 pounds strapped to the back. I mean, and I'm not doing huge long hikes usually to get in anywhere, but I do have a much more comfortable pack in if I do decide to do that.
Yeah,
So
and
that's nice.
the way that Alpha, the way it folds up is it actually folds up to where it will like tuck in between, like say we were out the national forest and doing a 3 mile pack in, that would actually tuck in between your frame pack and your back, right? It folds
Yeah,
flat.
you can do it like that, or you can do it on the back of your pack as well. The backmost part, and just strap it to it. Some people do that. They'll do their frame pack almost empty, and then strap it to the back of that, so you don't have that stand sitting up against your back. They'll
Mm-hmm.
just on an external frame, they'll basically just like ratchet strap it to bungee it down real good. You get some P cord and tie it down and off real good. But yeah, man, that thing folds down flat up against itself, and it's probably only 3 inches wide.
That's
So I
a
mean, it folds down
lot nicer
super
than
flat.
what. That's a lot nicer than what we've been using. I'm definitely going to be in the market. I know last year I said I was in the market for one, and I wound up buying the climbing stand and really enjoyed it out there in East Texas. But
I mean, they worked, like they served their purpose. Definitely not light. Definitely not as quiet as I would like to be. A
definitely
client,
heavy.
definitely heavy. But it served its purpose.
Yeah, and I think when we go out to the national forest again this year, I'll pack it again just because it's good. I feel like it's something that you can take out there if you know a spot, know a tree. You can take it and drop it. Go ahead and hook your cables and
Yeah.
stuff up and just leave it there, because neither one of those climbers was very expensive. Those were both Game Winner brand, Academy house brand climbers. They were less than
I think
125, less than
no,
150.
no, I ended up getting mine for $99, man.
I think that's
I
what
think
I
it was
got.
on sale or something, but
Yeah, I think that's what I might have paid for mine, or maybe 129 for mine. I don't remember. But yeah,
yeah,
either way, like it's not a lot of money to sit out there, and it gives me a second spot to stand. But like the reason why I want to hang on stand is because I can get those. What do they call them? The deer stand buddy or whatever. I think that's what they're called. And I can go out there.
yeah.
I can hang 5 of those up in a
hmm
tree and just come out and put my sticks and then clip my hanger on, and then I'm done.
Yeah, so for everybody listening that doesn't know what that is, it's basically a metal plate that you can either ratchet strap or bolt to the tree itself, and it has basically some come with like the little feet that basically and like a male female type thing, and so you would bring your stand up, set it onto this plate on the tree,
Yeah, on the
and
where your hanging stand normally mounts onto the tree, there's a receiver bracket that you put
yeah,
onto the
it's
back of there, and it just slides
basically a
over the top.
receiver. Yep, and it just slides onto there. And so you would be able to just leave this small piece of metal on a tree and take your stand down with you, pack it out, and it makes rehanging it a lot simpler if you're hunting a lot of public land. And even if you want to leave that there for, the entire year, technically it's not a stand, so you don't have to remove it at the end of the season. Um, you know, I would say that would be okay, right? I would like to think so. I'd probably call, either the Forestry Service or game warden out there, but I would suspect that, somewhere where they say you have to remove all your stands by the end of season or when you're not there, depending on where you're at, that you could probably leave that up and then just go rehang your stand next season.
Well, the only problem is would be the vinyl degrade from the ratchet straps that you use to hang it
Well,
on.
but you also have the option of putting
Well,
it in the tree, which they would be against
I'm
that.
about to say you can't bolt it into a tree. I mean, but like on your own private ranch or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
or if you had, permission to hunt someplace, yeah, you could definitely bolt them up and leave them up. And I mean, they're just a piece of powder coated metal, so they're not going to go bad.
Yeah. Yeah, but those are pretty cool. And, if you had a couple of them, then you'd have, 4 or 5 trees, while you're hunting. You have that option to go just hang that stand up, go from tree to tree if you're hunting it too hard, if you just don't like the spot.
Bad wind.
Whatever it is. Bad wind that day.
Prime example of this weekend, we were planning to hunt a south wind, and then turns out we're getting a north wind. So we had to totally switch everything up. I mean, if we had those out there, we could very easily just switch it back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we stand a pretty good chance. I like that this small front is not going to be as big of a front as I really wanted it to be. But I'm glad that we're getting something in to cool off the weather just a little bit instead of hitting 90s.
Yeah.
And,
mid 80s.
I heard Michigan was hitting up to 95 as a high last week.
I believe it. We were hitting upper 90s here too with.
Well, I mean, in Michigan, man, and their deer season's been open, and so those Michigan boys are out hunting 95-degree bow seasons right now in Michigan. That was weird to me.
Well, yeah, because I have a friend of mine who runs a crating company. He goes up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan every year during bow season, and it kind of they always and he's usually talking about campfires and cooking deer hearts and livers and stuff over a campfire trying to stay warm. And
I mean,
I don't imagine they were
there.
Oh yeah, usually he says it usually gets snowed on.
Well, South Dakota, I know, had snow last week during their deer season. So yeah, man, I mean, it's definitely that weird time of year where you don't know what to expect exactly, just depending on the state you're hunting at. But yeah, man, it's weird. But yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch with y'all and let y'all know how we do this Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. So I went out last weekend to close out early teal and did a whole lot of bird watching. It was a real good time hunting. We saw lots of birds. Didn't see a single teal. Didn't see a single duck. Saw lots of pelicans, roseate spoonbills. We kind of gambled, from everything that we'd heard and the scouting that we'd done. We knew the birds were going to be thin, but we'd heard from multiple different fishing guides that we know and people that have been fishing in the bay that they were seeing teal out in the bay, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But with all the rain we had from Harvey, well, the bays are super duper fresh. So why not? We'll go bay hunt for teal. It didn't work out the way that we'd planned. We heard a whole whopping total of 3 shots. And most of the outfitters and guides and stuff I follow on Facebook, it looks like none of them really had super banner days. I've been looking at, guys coming out with 20, 30 limits, every Saturday and Sunday. And I only saw 2 places that I know that, with big stacks of birds. But so, as always, any time spent in a duck blind is always fun. And the slower it is, the better the jokes get. And the more interesting the conversation turns. So, we're sitting there, and the conversation comes up again. How much does a pelican weigh? Of course, we have phones right there. We can Google it. So, the debate, continued. Pelican weighs 10 pounds. Pelican weighs 15 pounds. Pelican weighs 25 pounds. We continue on about it, and then one of the guys I was hunting with, he'd go, "It'd be real nice if you could buy a mulligan for a bird. That way, we could shoot a pelican, and then we'd know how much it weighs. We could pick it up, we could feel how much it weighs, and then we could, act." And I was like, that would be, something. I was like, you couldn't actually sell a mulligan because I guarantee you, we'd all use our mulligan, our mulligan today because we're not going to see a teal.
Mm-hmm.
And they all told me to shut up. They're just over there. I can't see them because my eyes are bad and everything else.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, so if you got one mulligan, the question came up. So if you had one mulligan for one bird, or if you could just, shoot any bird that was flying by today, what bird would you shoot? And, the joke started flying. Oh, I'd shoot a bald eagle. I'd shoot a ostrich. I'd shoot a, because apparently Mojo's a decoy brown pelicans better than anything on the face of the planet. We would watch them fly across the entire bay and then come hover right over them and look at them and look at them and look at them. I mean, 30 seconds, those pelicans would just kind of sit there and hover, coming into the wind and then kind of veer off and slowly fly away.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, and it didn't happen once. It didn't happen twice. It didn't happen 3 times. It probably happened 10 or 15 times. And we're not talking 3 or 4 pelicans. We're talking 20, 30, 40 pelicans. Multiple times. And then we had rosette.
They're just coming in, checking out what bird's working on that fish right there. So they're just greedy little hungry bastards.
Oh yeah, like I said, we did a lot of bird watching. I saw terns. I saw false terns. I saw gulls of all different shapes and sizes. Rosette spoonbills. There was some kind of crazy bird party going on behind us, and one of the little small salt lakes because there was like 9 or 10 different species of birds back there, all just squawking and going crazy at each other. But no teal birds. So we sat around there for a while, and we finally, I guess about 8:30, 9 o'clock, maybe closer to 10, it was starting to get kind of warm. The clouds had kind of burned off. The sun had came off. We kind of all looked at each other. We're like, no, it ain't going to happen today. So we went and picked up all the decoys, and we decided to gather up, and we ran back across the bay and down the ICW, back to the boat ramp. I let my buddy borrow one of my dove decoys, and he wound up killing about 3/4 of a limit, sitting there in his backyard. So
sweet.
So I felt like at least I did a little bit good.
Right.
Plus he got to go work his dog, so his dog was happy.
There you go. Yeah, I got out Sunday morning. My girlfriend and I went out and decided to spur the moment, Saturday night at like midnight. I was like, you want to go hunting in the morning? So we ended up going out, and we ended up with nothing. There's nothing to speak about. There's no story there. There's a bunch of cows that kept screaming, doing the most messed up moo that you've ever heard in your life. There was one cow that got outside the fence, and I was like, keeping in my head, like, you know what? I'm going to call the Corps engineers and let them know, there's a cow loose off the Corps property here. Somebody's got grazing rights on. And by the time we left, I drove down the road and no cow to be found. So maybe he found his way back in. Maybe he wandered out into this giant open cornfield that was kind of rolling hills.
He was out there eating corn.
He's out there doing something, messing around. So you'd think I'd be able to see a 400-pound white cow, but no luck. So I tried to rescue the cow. That's all I got, man. There was absolutely no birds. I mean, we didn't even shoot at anything. But it was nice to just sit out there, and it was super foggy that morning. Super, super foggy.
Yeah, it was definitely foggy. I posted up on Instagram, and I think I don't think I posted it on Facebook, but yeah, I wound up getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to drive 2.5, 3 hours, give or take, to be at the boat ramp on the coast to go chase teal birds, and nothing happened. And 3 loaded semi-auto shotguns, 3 unloaded semi-auto shotguns, loaded back up in floating cases, and back without the trigger even being pulled once.
Yeah.
And then
way it goes sometimes, man.
But I mean, I made it back in plenty enough time to shoot. I was back home by 1 o'clock, I think, because I took a short little 30-minute nap, and then I wound up taking the kids over to the little pond here in the neighborhood or here in town, and went over there and watched a bunch of white park ducks do duck things,
Mm-hmm.
and did a little bass fishing. Um, the little neighbor boy down the street probably caught a half dozen, pound and a half, 2 pound bass, all on
That's pretty good.
artificials. I caught about a 2 pound bass on a worm trying to catch perch for my daughter. Me and my daughter probably caught 150 perch. I mean, you couldn't put them in there, and it was just slamming.
Yeah,
My
tearing them
son,
up, man.
yeah, my son was trying to catch a catfish because he wanted to bring it home and eat it.
Yeah.
Catfish weren't hungry, so it seems like it was not a very prime day for bringing things home out of the wild and eating them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But as far as eating goes, last weekend, I saw you did one of the last packages of backstrap, and I ended up I cooked every single dove in my freezer into poppers and put them on the smoker, man. I love smoking them now. I'm never gonna grill them again, I don't think.
Yeah, that's the only way to.
It cooks so perfect. It cooks so perfect.
Yeah, you get the cheap, super thin bacon,
Mm-hmm.
so it
That two
crisps
dollar
up.
pack of like a million pieces of bacon.
Yep,
Yeah,
and
that's the best kind.
yeah, because it crisps up perfectly.
Yeah.
Because
I smoke them at about anywhere from 275 to 300. I go a little bit higher just because of the bacon.
yeah.
And that's still, not super high. It's not 350, so it's not it's not gonna overcook the dove.
What do you go for, like 275 for about 30 minutes or so?
It depends. So with those, you kind of have to, because I was doing so many, you kind of have to rotate them over time because the one's a little bit closer to the fire. I do the what do you call that kind of smoker? I'm drawing a blank right
Offset.
now. An offset smoker. So yeah, with the offset smoker, everything closer to the firebox is of course getting more heat. So it's kind of having to rotate, but it ended up being about 45 to an hour to get all of them off.
Yeah, that's usually about what it takes me whenever I do them. It's about 45 minutes to an hour.
But probably at that hour though, I wasn't rocking any fire anymore really. I mean, it was down to probably 200 on that hour mark, and it was just me just leaving them on there, just relaxing. So
yeah, because that's usually what I'll do is I'll generally eat me half a dozen to a dozen of them real quick, and then that last dozen becomes snack fodder. You push them all the way to the far end of the pit so they don't overcook. And line them up over there, and every time you walk by, you be like, "I'm gonna grab me 2 of those."
Yeah, exactly.
I seen you've been having some chicken issues with your rats and stuff. Did you manage to get all that taken care of?
No, man, no, it's a constant battle. It's a constant battle. They're breaking eggs open now. They have learned that there's good stuff inside the eggs. So if I'm not here, for a day, and then I come back and there's 3-4 broken eggs with everything cleaned out and just the eggshell sitting there. They're coming in for the feed. I've tried sticky traps. I've tried bait stations. I've tried regular traps with peanut butter. I've tried, chicken feed on the very middle of sticky traps. I've tried, oh man, everything. I've tried BB guns. I've tried, I've done it all. It's a slow battle and they're winning.
Is what you might want to try. This is just a suggestion. Is maybe get you a roll of that rabbit wire, the 1/4-inch hole, and actually putting that along the bottom, and then
they're coming from the top and the bottom though is the problem.
Oh, so they're dropping through the top.
They're running. So my chicken coop is a 10x10 chain link dog run for all y'all listening, and it's got a tarp roof over that. But they are running the fence line that the chicken coop backs up onto, and then jumping over, the 6 inches onto the chicken coop, walking down vertically down the chain link, and then jumping over across from there onto the chicken coop itself, and then are going inside that direction.
What about, I realize it's going to be a lot of work, but what about building like an actual chicken coop that you seal them up at night?
They roost on the roof though. So I'm not worried about the chickens.
Yeah.
But their food that they're coming for is a hanging feed. It's a hanging thing, and they will climb P cord that it's on, hanging from, and drop down into the feed bucket. They, they're rats, man. They're gonna outlive us all, and they're gonna be here after the human race is gone, right with the cockroaches. So
man,
it's a constant battle. I've killed a few with the bait station. I've killed one with a sticky trap. I've made another one bald with a sticky trap. It got away. So there's a bald rat running around somewhere over here.
So basically the long and short of this is what I'm hearing is for Christmas you want a Gammo 22 caliber pellet rifle.
Yeah, man, I need me another good pellet rifle. Mine, the seal in the air pump is going bad. So you gotta after you pump it, you gotta shoot that thing in 4 seconds, or it's losing all of its air pressure, and basically you're throwing a pebble at it with your underhand throw.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I'll keep you updated on the rat situation.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how your backyard rat hunting's going, because you're definitely gonna have to do something, because you were averaging what, over a dozen eggs a week.
3 a day. So.
And now because you told me you were kind of egg poor the last time when I was there, when I was trying to mooge a dozen eggs off you.
Oh, I had just given away 18 eggs. That's why I was egg poor.
Oh.
But it's also because, that they were getting some of them. I'm not getting that kind of quantity, but I got eggs for you this weekend if you would like.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a few.
Okay.
I could go for half a dozen.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm gonna get off here. I'm gonna hit the hay and get ready for work. And I'm definitely going to be obsessing more than ever the next 2 days about bow season.
Yeah, I'm definitely ready for bow season, and definitely ready to, put all this training we've been doing in the off season, actually getting in shape for once, to actually go hunting. I feel like we know where they should be. It's just going to be a matter of finding them. So
yeah,
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Me too. That's a good way to describe it.
Well, alrighty, everybody. It's been good talking to y'all, and we'll talk to y'all next time. Get outside and enjoy it.
Everybody rate us on iTunes now,
yeah,
Stitcher now, pretty much. I think we're on a ton of podcast stuff, so everybody leave us a rating, leave us a comment. I'm sure we'll respond to it, because there's not a lot at the moment to respond to. So if you want to know anything, just drop us a message on Facebook or on whatever you're listening to this. So, all right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.